This is Coda Radio, episode 195 for March 7th, 2016. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as this here show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us now, once again, recovered and fired up. Why, yes, it's your host, Mr. Michael Dominic. Hello there, Michael.
Well, recovering. I mean, you know, I'm not ready to slap my little Donald on the table and be like,
No, of course not. No, I didn't mean to imply that you were all fired up and ready to go here, but I was going to say...
I am the most fabulous whiner.
You are like, your 70% is like another man's 90%.
You sound like those girls in Vietnam. Oh, never mind. Whoa.
So I'm just saying, however, if either one of us is miserable today, I think I might take the cake because I am doing the show with wet hair, dripping wet, like down my face, and I got a wet shirt on. Michael, I had this insight. I don't know what it's like where you live, but the cost of living where I live is extremely high. And I've chosen an independent line of work that isn't overly rich living, and so I thought, hey, you know what I'm going to game the system, and instead of getting a big house that I have to take care of that I don't have time for with a yard and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to live in a mobile recreational vehicle known as an RV, a Class A RV. So I did this. I got an RV and I got this great spot I live in, right? It's beautiful, wonderful. I don't pay much to live there. It's a good compromise for me. However, they build these things under an assumption, Mike. You know, when you're building a product or code or a project or even a sandwich, when you make a couple of assumptions from the beginning that turn out not to be true, like you don't have cheese. The thing about that is that continues to bite you for the rest of that sandwich making process. So here's what I'm talking about. The Class A motorhome is designed to be perfectly level pretty much at all times. And the less level you are, the less things work right. It starts with your shower. It just leaks all out, just all over the floor because, you're off kilter a little bit. And, of course, it's designed such that there's certain ways for water to run, and when it doesn't run that way, it leaks. If you go even more kilter, then maybe things like your slides might leak just a little bit of water. Not much, but, maybe a little bit might come in just depending on how much the vehicle is leaning. And on older rigs, like the fridge doesn't even work. It just shuts off. Now, those are on the older ones. So this morning, I'm like, well, it is pouring. It is an El Nino tsunami here in the Pacific Northwest. I should probably level this thing out a little bit because we're going to have some water flowing in the wrong direction, going through things we don't want to go through. Well, how long could that take? Long story short, I was out in the rain for like 40 minutes. I got in the studio late, cramming food in my mouth, still soaking wet, totally drenched, but pretty fired up about today's show. I mean, even then, I'm still excited about today's show because coming up in today's episode of Coda Radio, something we've been chatting about for a long time finally happened, and we've had some time to sort of reflect on it, and last week, hopefully you got a chance to catch up on some of our previous coverage of Xamarin, or as I like to say, Xamarin, of their acquisition by Microsoft. In fact, just a couple of days ago, it was actually approved by the FTC, so now it's actually 100% legit. As the previous coverage was just the announcement of the acquisition, the actual approval by the FTC didn't happen until the 4th of March. So, and the announcement was on February 27th. A lot of ground to cover this week, Mr. Dominic.
Exactly as I had foreseen. By the way.
Oh, really? You thought maybe this was going to happen? You thought there was a possibility here?
Yeah,
really? I didn't know. Really?
Episode, dude.
Oh,
yeah.
Did we? Oh, dude, I'm totally.
By the way, let's just get this out of the way.
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
Xamarin is something you made up.
Right.
Xamarin
Yes.
is the name of a cross-platform C# development
Hey
tool.
now,
Okay.
hold on. See, I know this is obnoxious, but you see, I have to quibble because the purpose of language is to convey a concept or thought. And did I not accomplish that task? If I call him Xamarin or
Here's what you
Xamarin.
accomplished. I was listening to you in the damn hospital thinking I could just get up and like use my phone to tether in right now.
Listen,
Stop this.
here's my problem: is this all went off the rails for me when Novell was purchased by Attachmate. And from that time on, I have never been able to see this as a viable platform. And I do not mean disrespect to them, but I've never really invested myself in it as a product because it always seemed like this was the inevitable outcome of it. And I remember when we called it Mono, and it was just Mono. It wasn't a big separate company that had to be created because Attachmate couldn't be bothered to even fund them. I mean, let's be honest here. This is what happened: is Attachmate looked at this and this is not a viable business for us, and they laid off Miguel Icaza, and some of it he poached some of the team members, and some of them were probably also laid off. I don't remember the details, and they set up Xamarin. That's where Xamarin came from. So I've never been hugely impressed with Miguel's analysis on events or on his product. So that's why, I mean, not to go off on a tirade here, but Xamarin, tomato.
Okay, so do we want to just dive into this?
I don't know. Do you want to?
Oh, I have lots to say about this. I mean, I can do a full show on it. In fact, I was listening pained to you last week. I really. And then I listened to you, and then we did the Super Tuesday coverage.
Well, that was fun.
Because no one can resurrect me like the Donald.
Yeah, and I gotta say, a little bit of a bummer is because of that power outage. The first part of the Super Tuesday coverage didn't go out, which was great.
Oh no!
But still, you still had great analysis in the episode in the second half. But second half was still really solid and had good momentum. But the first half was really good. I mean, and I love that because Mike joined me on Unfilter and just to stretch his legs a bit, and I just called him up and we just started the show immediately. Like as soon as Mike was on the line, and that was fun, which is almost close to what we do here. So yeah, that was a good. I don't know how people. I haven't looked at the feedback because I know some people. That was for me. That was an opportunity to try a new format and exercise something in a semi-relevant way. I don't plan to do a lot of those, but I thought it was kind of fun. So yeah, thank you for joining me on that. That was really good.
No, thank you. It gave me something to do.
So you're feeling up to diving right in. You're ready, health-wise. You're good.
I think we just have to do it. Right?
Okay. All right. So obviously, this is something that people are kicking around a lot, and there's a lot of different angles I think we could take on this. A couple of the big ones that we could just sort of begin to nom on and then expand out from there is some people are saying total blunder. Microsoft is really screwing themselves here, and other people are saying the move they had to make. This is going to guarantee Azure lock-in. Do you have a particular feeling which direction you want to start from?
Okay, so
I can give you the arguments from either side if you're interested.
I think we should make so I'm actually fairly positive on this. So if you want to be the negative Nancy, you can go ahead and be the negative Nancy, and I'll be the for guy.
Okay, all right.
All right, so Microsoft traditionally is pretty popular among enterprise developers, right? Can we just stipulate that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And a lot of development is currently happening in the mobile space.
Unless, well, I guess, I don't want to not leave room. Well, that's a bad sentence, but I don't want to leave Java out of the conversation in the enterprise. That's where it has a pretty significant deployment, and I don't know how much of that is being done in a Microsoft-centric ecosystem. I'm sure it's probably happening on the Windows platform, but
yeah, I see what you're saying. It's weird. I still see a ton of Microsoft out there, man. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I also want to give a nod to a lot of enterprise development happening. And I know a couple of different guys that are full-time Perl developers. Like they just work at their organization writing back-end Perl. But I think you're right. I think the majority probably falls to VB, ASP.NET, all of that stuff, and including the Microsoft SQL services, all of the back-end stuff is got to be huge, right?
Well, and just SharePoint development by itself.
Yeah, that is a thing.
Thick, juicy market.
Ugh.
It's like rancid meat, though. I have dallied and dillied and tarried and played and snuggled and vomited with Xamarin several times.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed.
Thank you. I've had mixed feelings on it, though more recently, much more positive feelings. I think this is only good for Xamarin, right? For Xamarin as a product. Being bought by Microsoft. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
You know, if you listen back to some of the old shows we covered on Xamarin, my biggest complaint was they don't have enough resources to actually do the job they're trying to do correctly.
As you go forward, as you're about to continue here, just keep in the back of your mind, what was Xamarin's plan now that Microsoft is putting more and more code up on GitHub? What was exactly Xamarin going to do long run here to stay super competitive? What was their long-term strategy to really become a super valuable company?
Well, what do you mean? Well, I mean, Microsoft open sourcing .NET only helped them, right?
I don't know if that's actually true. Long term, I think initially for sure, yeah, because yes, I think initially. Long term, though, I don't know if I guess it goes back to my skepticism as them as a company. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the problem, the value prop with Xamarin is there is some set of, they really have two customers, right? There are some set of .NET developers who want to get into mobile but don't have the time or willingness to, learn mobile. Then there's another set of mobile developers who want to go cross-platform but don't want to do it HTML5.
Yeah.
Because
I've been on. You know what this sounds like? This sounds like you and I are in 1998 right now, and we're discussing the reason why Java is relevant. This sounds like all of the same justifications for Java. And I guess what I'm getting at with this is I think Xamarin right now, or Xamarin, what is Xamarin, whatever, is their best value. This is the best value they were ever going to get for their company, unless the Microsoft .NET stuff really continued to gain a lot of momentum in the wider public. Which the promise would be, well, by doing so, .NET developers can bring their applications to the Android and iOS platform. This is the promise of Java and HTML5 applications that continues to be, this is going to be a great idea. And we all sit back and we nod our heads and go, that does seem like quite a good idea and technically possible, therefore it should be done. And meanwhile, anytime you see a serious application out there that people are really putting effort behind, it's very rarely top to bottom shared code. And it just never really seems to be something that actually takes off in the marketplace without some exceptions, for sure. Really, I can't think of many, but there are definitely some exceptions. So my point is Xamarin was only going to get more valuable if .NET continued to be adopted and grew a lot as a platform. There is definitely a possibility that is going to happen. There is also a possibility that this promise that has been promised since the 90s is still not going to get enough traction, and it won't happen.
All right, well, let me challenge you on that a little bit, because I've been to many a sales call with Xamarin people, and where they were trying to sell me Xamarin, right? That's what they were doing. They strongly will tell you that Xamarin is not like Java from the 90s. Xamarin is native development, just wrappered, right? I
do not mean to make any comparisons of anything other than the concept.
Well, but they would argue it's a totally different concept. That's what
I'm talking when you are looking at a decision from a business standpoint. That's really what the argument is, though. They can say it's whatever they want, but if people are sitting there around a meeting table making business decisions, it's really going to be about bringing all their time invested, all of their hard, or what do they call it, blood and treasury that they've put into their code over all these years. It's really about getting use out of that, and not about all the other things Xamarin or Xamarin may claim it is. In my opinion, it really is truly about reusing code.
It's about reusing code on the business logic layer, right? But that's a big difference than the old the old Java argument of straight up recompile it for a different
That's
platform.
why it always seemed like a great idea to me, in the sense that the concept is solid. It just never seems like anything that actually appeals to people in mass.
Well, I think the dirty little secret about developers who need cross-platform tools is we actually want that Java live, right? We're willing to make compromises to get that, because we really do want to just compile it for a different platform. For me, in my eyes, all these cross-platform tools, Xamarin included, are a cost-cutting measure, right? They have nothing to do, and I know Xamarin salespeople are probably rolling in their chairs if they're listening, but if you want the best app, do 2 native apps and spend twice the money.
Yeah, and you actually I see that seems to be the more successful recipe, and often that means one platform gets it before the other platform, or in some cases, things like Linux never get a version, which sucks, but that seems to be the reality. That seems to be what works in the marketplace. I guess Yeah, I mean, it just
Yeah.
the promise of this is solid. It really is. So I don't mean to devalue that, but it just never seems to really.
I mean, I actually think it's a pretty strong platform if you know what you're getting into, right? And you're not getting, unless you're talking about Xamarin Forms, which still pretty much doesn't work. Sorry,
Can I give
guys.
you not to steal the pro, but here's where I think this is why an acquisition does make sense, because Xamarin as itself struggles to really define here where it's going to be super valuable or if it'll take off. As a component of a Microsoft Azure cloud offering, I actually think there's some traction here. Here's a couple of things. It seems to be Microsoft is pulling back pretty much, pretty openly on their mobile plan, cutting that way back. They obviously are doubling down on Azure and making enterprise device owners want to have connections to Azure, either through on-premises and cloud. And I would argue that Xamarin, what you could do is you could take all their technology and produce a framework that lets developers write programs that are easily connected into Azure services. Now, you make this something like very easy to use on multiple platforms. Hey, here's a framework. It uses this. Now you can connect this with your application, and you can take full advantage of Azure's XYZ feature du jour of the time. I think as a part of an overall platform offering, it's extremely attractive because now it's a feature, right, of their Azure cloud platform.
So you're saying that they develop some sort of toolkit in addition to Xamarin, or as now a new component of Xamarin, that is basically super parse-like, really. I mean,
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay, they already have that. It's called Azure Mobile Services. There's already a Xamarin component.
And I would argue that what they're going to do is they're going to scrap most of that stuff, and this is going to be the basis of it. That would be. Here's why I say that, Mike, is because I thought it was particularly notable that when Microsoft announced this acquisition, it was the guy that runs the Azure Cloud division that made the announcement. That's a big. I think that's something you don't just. It wasn't Satya Nadella.
Well, who else would have made the announcement?
Satya Nadella.
No, not for something this small.
I actually think it's more relevant that he makes all kinds. They announced a version of Office for the iPad, and he makes the announcement. I think honestly, it tells you where they feel this fits into their overall strategy. Now, maybe I'm wrong in the implementation, but I
think they feel like their developer story going forward is an Azure thing, right? But that doesn't mean that, to use Xamarin, you have to use Azure. I don't see that future. I see it makes sense. It may be, more cost effective. But let's just pare back a little.
Well, and remember though, I'm not saying that they're selling it on the merits of the Xamarin stuff on its own. It's now part of an overall feature set that might tip the scales that direction. It's one more thing that when you go this direction, you get this stuff. That's really what it comes down to. You go this way, you get this. And if there's more things that when you go this way that you like, that's the direction you pick. Really, it's that vague because people that are making the decisions are businessy type of people.
So just come down this little line of thought with me. Go to store.xamarin.com.
Store.xamarin.com. Roger that. Okay, what am I looking for here? This is a very nice store.
Three pricing pricing levels.
Yes. I see categories here. You could say indie, business, and enterprise, which we've looked at in the past, yeah.
Indie does not come with Visual Studio integration.
That's right.
And it does not come with link to SQL, basically, and a bunch of support, but no one cares about the support. Really, you care about the Visual Studio integration and link to SQL. Business is $1,000 per person, so per seat per platform. So if you have developers who compile both platforms, that would be $2,000 a year per developer. And that's where you get, the actual usable version of Xamarin with link to SQL and Visual Studio. Now, this, in my opinion, has always been the Achilles heel of Xamarin because the level of work that they were doing to try to have any semblance of cash flow, they had to charge a ton. Don't you think that Microsoft could just make Xamarin a offering of MSDN for their enterprise customers, right? This is just another carrot to keep you in the Microsoft ecosystem.
I would not be surprised if it all was free.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, really, does Microsoft care? Like, Xamarin has only 20,000 customers.
Mike, this is, like I said, this is just a feature from Microsoft. They can easily write this off as overall cost of the Azure platform. And because this is now, and now they have direct influence over future features here. This is, for them, See, I was going to try to play the hardball, but this for them really is a great purchase. And it just makes so much more sense because I don't think without this, Xamarin is nearly as competitive.
Well, it really is because Xamarin needs to not cost $2,000.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Especially for like the one that's good.
Right.
That's kind of a bummer. Like you want like online business questions and support, you got to pay $2,000 a year. You know, that's a little rough.
You'll remember late 90s, early 2000s, there was this concept of a Microsoft developer, right? Someone who simply was like, everything they did was Microsoft. Period.
That's still a concept. That's still a thing.
That's still a concept, but it's kind of fallen apart now with mobile, right? They tried to jump onto PhoneGap. Remember when a couple years ago they made this big hoopla about Visual Studio integrating with PhoneGap and Cordova? And it kind of didn't work for them. Not a lot of people crossed over. Not a lot of .NET developers really picked up on it. This is the way where you can go to a trade school, learn .NET, which many trade schools teach, by the way, or they used to teach. I think they still do. And be a full stack Microsoft shop, a full C# shop. And just everything you do is in C#. You have, as the owner of the shop, you might like that because, well, it's nice when you don't have too many heroes on your team, right? When your developers are somewhat interchangeable.
Okay, so I want to pause here because I think there is something the audience is probably screaming right now. So we will get to that in a moment. First, I'm going to thank Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Go to linuxacademy.com/coders to support this show as a way to say thanks to Mike and I and to learn more about Linux Academy. So go to linuxacademy.com/coders to get the Coder Radio discount and then dig around and learn about what a cool platform it is. They have step-by-step video guides that you can get, really great comprehensive courseware. You can download and take it offline, audio, text, 2,323 videos. Jeez Louise, that number keeps going up. What's great is the courseware comes with its own server, spins it up on demand when you need it. You get to SSH into that. 7+ distros to choose from. Scenario-based labs. This is really clever. And I think a big, probably maybe undersold aspect is the instructor help. I don't really know how to really underscore how important instructor mentoring is on courseware like this, because we're talking about all of the things around Linux. You want to go get your Red Hat certifications, they've got great courseware on that. You want to learn Python or Ruby or Android development or even PHP, just don't tell Mike. They've got courseware on that. And they've got the best courseware, really. I mean, this stuff is, what I like about it is they've been hiring staff to go back and continue to comb through it. Make sure it stays relevant, make sure it stays fresh and good. And that is so useful for things like their Amazon Web Services that are constantly getting new changes from Amazon. You've got to stay on top of that, make sure you're getting the best stuff. They have a great community stacked full of Jupiter Broadcasting members. They have some really clever systems that allow you to really tell the system how much time you have available. And they'll automatically adjust and create courseware around that. And if you're like me and you're a little exam shy, they have quizzes that'll help you get ready for testing, and they have real-time feedback for some of the courseware to tell you where you're making a mistake. It's really nice and really smart. OpenStack as well. I don't mention that as often anymore, but they also have great OpenStack courseware over there. Go check them out at linuxacademy.com/coders. And a big thank you to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. That's linuxacademy.com/coders. Okay, so I think the audience is probably screaming at the podcast player right now. Hey, you guys. Hey, I got a great alternative already. It's called Qt. In fact, I believe it was D. Trobe that wrote in with the last episode based on Xamarin, and the next probably talk a lot about it. I hear a lot of complaints about how they have a Xamarin. Which one do you like, Xamarin?
It's Xamarin. It is correctly pronounced Xamarin.
Right, that's the one you like. Okay, but with Qt and simply...
It's not a preference, damn it.
But with Qt, Qt, that simply isn't true. Qt can deploy to more platforms, Linux, BSD, Mac, Windows, Desktop, x86, x64, and ARM, iOS, Android, WinMo. That's a lot more than C# and Xamarin, which is Mac, Windows, Desktop, iOS, and Android. Yes, Qt is C++, but the Qt framework protects you from many of the hardships of C++, like memory saving. The Qt Creator IDE is the second best full-fledged IDE out there, Visual Studio being his best. Xamarin Studio is okay, but Qt's documentation is some of the best out there also, and licensing issues have been taken care of. So, Mike, what the hell, man? What about Qt?
I think you guys are on crack.
You really think so? I mean, I don't know.
I don't think there's a whole lot of people doing mobile development on Qt. I mean, I'm sorry, it's called Qt.
I agree, but I always get feedback to call it cute. And so now we're playing Mr. Grammar Nazis today. I gotta call everything like it is. Antergeros, and etc. Go ahead.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah, I don't I don't know, right? Because how many people are actually doing things on the mobile side and want to write it in C++, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That would be, I think, the big barrier to Qt.
That's gotta be
Qt Pie, Qt Baby, Qt Mark.
Hey-oh. Yeah, okay, all right, that's fine. All right, and I just have a couple of other points, and then we'll continue on, okay? So Stephen J. von Hoff-Nicholas, he says Microsoft's purchase is a blunder, and I'll just give you the highlights, just a couple quick points to get your thoughts. In the end, few Linux developers outside of Mono's immediate circle ever used Mono's implementation of .NET Framework or C#. Since then, Mono's developers changed targets. Instead of trying to be .NET and C# programs to Linux, they would focus on bringing them to Android and iOS and macOS. This worked better, but not good enough for the Mono team to survive its parent company's Novell acquisition and downsizing by Attachmate. In 2011, Attachmate laid off Mono team, because of the founder of Xamarin, with an equivalency of 82 million in venture capital, gave it a go. Microsoft's hope, he believes, is that Mono will give it away for its .NET and C# developers to make universal mobile applications for Android and iOS. Yep. This is why Microsoft recently killed its Android Windows to Bridge program.
I heard a different rumor.
Okay, well, hold on. Well, the goal, this is the last part. The goal, the dream is that Microsoft will enable programs to port their C# and .NET Framework programs on everything from Android, iOS, and Linux, and the Mac. But he argues that this didn't work. That's always sounded like a good idea, but really never took off. The Universal Application Common Code-based promise sounds good, but once more, come to think of it, sounds a lot like Java. Okay, you know what? I actually had not read this before I said all that stuff earlier, and that is totally my take, too. It honestly feels like it does seem like a good idea. That's why I don't think it works on its own. But I do think it works standalone. Do you have any specific thoughts on response to Stephen J. there?
So I have a couple of things. One, on the Android bridge, I have heard from an independent source, but also it was reported on Thurrott.com. I like Paul Thurrott, but don't mention iOS or Android to him. It makes him sad. And this is the same thing, and I've heard it twice, so I'm going to assume it's true.
Okay.
That the problem with the Android bridge was that, unlike the iOS bridge, it wasn't like recompiling your app. It was simply bringing your app over, and it worked way too well, i.e. your Android APK could come right over. Which, why would that be bad for a Windows Phone? Well,
yeah,
it was
I'm not
awful
following you.
Well, remember BlackBerry? They did that.
So they basically they built a runtime for Android applications.
So what would happen? And again, I cannot confirm this independently.
This is a one part Thurrott rumor. Okay, I'll take a Thurrott rumor
with another independent source who should know. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay.
It seems and it sounds like, again, I haven't seen anything myself, but I've only been told, what would happen is effectively, a little more complicated than this, but effectively you could take your Android app straight over to Windows Phone, to the point where Windows Phone was now just another OEM for Android as far as you cared.
Without the Play services.
Without the Play services, and you could optionally implement the Microsoft like live tiles and stuff.
Yeah. Oh.
So why would Microsoft not want you to do that? And interestingly enough, 2.5 weeks after I hear that rumor, they buy Xamarin. So it seems like, so you don't want people just bringing over their binaries to your platform, and you're giving us a way to write for other platforms in your language. It definitely feels like, again, I don't want to keep harking back to it, but they're trying to get back to the old days of, Microsoft developers. I know it's not gone, but it feels gone for me because, I mean, it's pretty gone, Chris. I mean, remember Microsoft used to just be the default?
Yes.
I mean, it's changed. I know they're still around and I know they're fine, but, how many Windows servers are you running right now?
Well, I mean, I know, but still.
And how many servers total are you running?
Oh, boy. That's a good question. More than a dozen now.
Okay, and 0 of them are Windows, or maybe 1 for like a Samba servers.
I don't have literally none of them are Windows.
Yeah. Same here. So, I even ended up closing my last few Azure instances. I and those were Ubuntu Azure, by the way. It's just that insult to injury. I don't think that this is about Windows Phone, right? I don't think this is about cross-platform. I think this is about winning the hearts and minds and frankly, butts and seats of developers now. And I don't even think it's about current iOS and Android developers, because this is another topic for next week, but the app market is basically taking a giant deuce, right? Like, it is hard to close development deals that are not, like staff augmentation deals. It is hard to make money selling an app. It is hard to get customers to pay you anything for using an app. And if you have an app ID, you really need to think about marketing and some other challenges.
I think you're right, but I think you're missing the bigger point here, which is
maybe one more time.
Well, here's my thought is you're mostly right. The app market is tanking, but where the app market, there's only two places where there's any viability, and that's iOS and Android. We should probably save some of this for next week, but there was a couple of articles actually in the following weeks or in the last couple of weeks that came out. They basically just say the middle of the App Store is completely gutted right now.
Well, the Verge one, right? The one that
that was one, yeah.
That was just shared. Yeah, the App Store bankruptcy. I mean that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's two linked in our subreddit right now.
Right.
And
maybe we should go into it a little because if you're developing apps, you're probably not making money, right? The gold rush is over. You are probably developing for enterprises if you're making money.
You're definitely not making money on the Microsoft Store.
Okay, but you say that like, it's not like you're making 10 grand off of an app on iOS and zero on Microsoft. You're making zero on all platforms. So the fact that you have more downloads on iOS I would argue, is a cost, right? Because now you have users that you supposedly need to support. Viability in terms of, I can turn on my iPhone every week and there's a slew of new apps that people really don't need, right? I mean, I'm saying this is not, as a guy who makes his living building apps for people, I've actually been turning people away saying, you don't want to do this. And part of it's selfish because, when they make no money, they'll probably be upset and God knows what they'll try to do. But the other part of it is you really don't want to do this. Like, there is no viable business model that doesn't require significant marketing capital. So what does that mean? It means that the app stores, the app market, the mobile space is now like every other software space. You have to have deep pockets and an actual business plan, right? And a budget. And that business plan can't be, I'm going to sell this per unit for 99 cents or $1.99.
So here's my thought, is you're dancing all around the core thing here. And it all comes back to Microsoft. And then it all comes back to a huge admission on their part. Microsoft has been a fascinating company for me to watch. I've had essentially the opportunity of my entire life to watch family members work there and close friends work there. A business partner at one point worked there. My old co-host Brian worked there for a period of time. I've had lots of opportunities down there, and then to watch them here and watch them from a way that I think a lot of you probably don't watch companies, except for the ones that are local to you, like the way they're affecting your local economy when they lay 5,000 people off in one day. Yeah. Or the way the traffic, all of a sudden changes depending on what Microsoft is. It's been a fascinating company to watch. And one thing I've definitely learned, and I think you see this now, a lot of people have learned this, is Microsoft will say one thing and do another thing. And so you have to judge Microsoft on their actions, more so than most any other company. A lot of companies, I think, to some degree, feel accountable for what they say and will stick to it. Microsoft will say one thing and do something else. You saw like a lot leading up to the Windows 10 release if you watch some of the things there. But my point is, if you follow their actions, the purchase of Xamarin is in line with something they are saying very loudly, and that is...
Holy shit balls, Chris. Can I just interrupt you for late breaking news?
Yeah, hold on.
Literally.
Hold on. We have, what is it, Mike? What's called? We have breaking news? Yeah, what is it?
This is CNN breaking news.
Microsoft announces SQL Server on Linux.
Are you kidding me?
I just sent you the link in chat.
I love it. Oh my God.
Holy crap. And there's a little heart because we need a little... Off fucking deep end. They are totally off the mountain.
No, where
here.
is that? Where's the link? Where's the
I
link?
just linked it in IRC. Is IRC not working?
I don't know.
IRC
I'm
is not working.
freaking out so much right now.
I'll link it to you. Wait.
Somebody link it in the chat room. I'm freaking out right now. I'm freaking out. SQL
I'm linking
Server.
it in Skype.
I got it. No, Skype's no good. Skype's no good. I got to have it in the chat room. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now with this?
I find that incredible. All right, I'm just gonna refresh my page.
I'm just gonna go Google it right now. Microsoft SQL Linux. This is. I mean, I guess now I have to download and install SQL. It's been a while. Wait, yeah. Okay, no, it's the driver. It looks like maybe it's the driver. I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't know. I just saw the headline stream by my feed here, and I was like, what?
Yeah. Okay, Microsoft offer version of SQL Server for Linux. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Mike. Huh.
With this Thursday at our data-driven event in New York, we will kick off a wave of launch activities for SQL Server 2016. This is from Microsoft's blog. Holy crap.
That's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. That was like their secret sauce in the back end, right?
Okay, so this kind of goes in line with what I'm thinking. Oh, this is interesting.
Oh, this is crazy.
Okay, it's fascinating. This could not have been better timing. Oh my gosh, this is crazy to me. This is really...
Hello, everybody.
This is blowing my mind because I was really about to say something that I think this totally backs up and confirms.
Okay, hit me.
Okay, all right. You know what I'm going to do, Mike? I got to take a moment, and I got to thank DigitalOcean first. I got to say thanks to DigitalOcean. So Mike asked me how many servers I've got. I got droplets. I actually have one physical server. Set that up when we moved into the studio and thought, oh, this will be how I do it. I'll use a virtualizer here in the studio. What a pain in the butt, even to manage just a few machines. What a pain in the butt. And the droplets make it so straightforward and beautiful with the simple backup system, straightforward API. Use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, get a $10 credit, and go try one. An Ubuntu rig, or a Fedora rig, or Debian, or Core OS. Yeah, they even got free BSD. They got a whole bunch of distros you can choose from, different versions too. Data centers all over the place in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, Toronto, and Germany. They just are great too, with 40 gigabit E connections to those hypervisors, all SSDs. In less than 55 seconds, you're going to get up and going with 512 megabytes of RAM, 20 gigabyte SSD, blazing fast CPU, and a terabyte of transfer for just $5 a month. So if you use our promo code CODERDIGITAL, then you get the $10 credit, drop the $5 rig 2 months for free. Or, actually, just go take a look at their pricing, too. It's super easy and straightforward. So by default, it's tabbed to monthly. But if you click it over to hourly, 3 cents an hour for a rig with 2 gigabytes of RAM, 2 cores on the blazing fast CPU there, 40 gigabyte SSD, and 3 terabytes. Holy crap, 3 terabytes of transfer for 3 cents an hour. Now, think about this. There is a ton of code already out there you can use that uses the API to spin up a droplet. You deploy your image, or you deploy your system, or you could even have something that's already snapshotted and offline that you just spin up, use it for a couple of hours. Honestly, now, when it's something I'm going to do on the command line, I don't even bother messing around with my daily driver. I'll just spin up a rig on DigitalOcean. I'll do the work. And if I want to keep it for later on, I just shut it down or take a snapshot of it. It's really nice. And when the hourly pricing's there, and it's so easy to just go look at it so you know what to expect, it's really straightforward. But when you use the promo code CODERDIGITAL, go use the promo code and look at some of the tutorials they have. Tons and tons and tons of really good tutorials. And then get you started with one-click deployments too. DigitalOcean.com, use the promo code CODERDIGITAL. And a big thanks to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Yeah, I should try the SQL server on a DigitalOcean droplet. Wow. Okay, so I was saying you have to judge Microsoft by their actions. And truly, they have been an interesting company to watch. And one thing that I definitely think we've all begun to notice, and sometimes we realize it at different levels, and it's obvious when I say it, but I think they are truly, honestly giving up on the Microsoft. And I think this is where you have it wrong when they're trying to make more Microsoft developers. I think they're trying to make more Azure type developers. I think they're trying to make. I think what they honestly want is as simple as this. If you're gonna be developing and creating technology, they just want you using Microsoft stuff somehow. And if that means SQL Server on Linux, or that means buying Xamarin and making all of those tools free, if that's what it takes, because here's what I think they're actually implicitly stating. Hard stop right here. Android has won. Now we just want you to have tools to make great applications for Android and likely iOS. Windows Mobile, Windows Platform isn't even in there. We have all of these hooks for our cloud infrastructure that you can use. It's really about Android now. They're making big bets on Cyanogen for some reason, which people seem to like, and they're continuing to do so. So they must be having some success there. And I honestly think I actually think why they're investing in Cyanogen is to just have some hedge in an influential, cutting-edge Android group. I think that's honestly their goal there, and to get more Bing users. And they're making the move there, like with SQL out for Linux. What they're really saying is you can now go build your Android applications with our technology using our back-end infrastructure. And the reason they're not putting out like some crazy-ass enterprise SQL server for Linux. Look at that. What they're putting out there is the server that people that are writing on the Linux platform might need to use. When they're using Visual Studio Code, they can now have a nice, easy-to-use SQL server that you could spin up on a droplet or spin up on your local rig to do SQL development. That's the server they've released. And then when you're ready to go full-time, well, guess what? We got a great solution for that. I think what they're stating here by this Xamarin purchase and this Android release, Linux release, is that Android has won. They're giving up on their mobile platform.
I don't know. I mean, I hate to ask this question, but how are they going to make money?
Okay, so check this out. Microsoft has announced a crap ton of conferences and hackathons for Xamarin stuff. So they've already had one on March 1st in Seattle. They're having one today in where is this? I don't know. And they're having one tomorrow in DC. If you can make it down there, this is the Xamarin Navigation Patterns with Xamarin MVP Dan Herms for the .NET Developer Group. And then go on this whole list. There's a whole list here. I'll link in the show notes. And it's all about cloud and Xamarin. Cloud, enterprise, Xamarin. Enterprise, cloud, Oracle, Xamarin. C# developers group here, patterns and Xamarin Forms, Xamarin MVP, Dan Herms again. He seems to be going around. He's going to be in Boston too.
So they're really hitting the ground running on this. Then they're ready to do it.
They just must be adopting over some conferences that
Xamarin has the Revolve conference. That's
but these are hands-on events, and like Microsoft Cloud Roadshow with Xamarin. This on March 11th. You might be able to go to some of these, I'm saying.
Yeah, I might actually go.
I have a link in the show notes. Yeah. A lot of events, and none of that's about building. I mean, some of it comes with the territory, but there's nothing really in there. There's not one mention of the Windows platform or Windows desktop in this entire thing. Let me double check that. But there's cloud and mobile, which mobile is really code for iOS and Android.
Right. Holy crap! Steve Wozniak's going to be at the Xamarin Evolve conference.
Concert.
We're gonna sing to the Microsoft.
So I think Microsoft's actions are admission that some of their mobile ambitions, and what they're doing now is they're doubling down on. Well, if you're gonna do it, just use our stuff, and maybe you want to subscribe to our cloud infrastructure.
All right. Well, let's just say that's right, because you're starting to sway me to the dark side of Fisher. Is their stuff good? I mean, right? Because it's really from a pragmatic point of view, and I know this is going to be unpopular, but isn't that all that matters?
Microsoft is a mobile-first, cloud-first company. I think when they say mobile now, when Microsoft said mobile-first, first of all, I just got to say really quickly, I really enjoy that their top priority is two things. It's kind of ironic. Mobile-first, cloud-first. Anyways, it's really cloud-first. See, when they said mobile-first last time, we all thought Windows Mobile. I think when they say mobile first, now they mean Android. Android first, cloud first. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean...
And they do have a ton of momentum with a bunch of developers that could apply that knowledge set. I mean, they have a lot of momentum there, but I just don't know if... This will be interesting to see how this plays off, how it plays out. Because to be honest with you, I just don't necessarily see if it's enough. Because here's one thing that the chat room has brought up a couple of times, and I wanted to bounce off you. How does this, if at all, I mean, now we have open source Swift, and we have IBM working with Apple to bring Swift into the enterprise. And so far, their relationship seems to have been surprisingly fruitful, which who saw that one coming?
It's shocking. IBM did something correctly.
And Apple working with a partner, and that partner being IBM. Like, when does that ever work out? That
when
never
Steve Jobs is not alive.
See, this is the chat room has been asking this question is because this is obviously getting pretty competitive, and Microsoft's got a very, very, very compelling offering here, but you know, it's only one of many other very competitive offerings that have momentum now.
You know,
maybe you write the front end in Swift and the back end logic is using Microsoft's tools connected to Azure.
So Microsoft does have some pretty, and when I say pretty, I mean extremely productive tools, right? I don't know if I'm the target person for this, first of all. I really don't think I am, even though the Xamarin folks would tell you that I am. But what is the value prop for me, right? Like, it's weird because they have all the pieces here for someone to go tomorrow and open, you know, we're a Microsoft shop LLC, right? Really, they have it. But who the hell would do that? And would that not be like the first step on the road to bankruptcy?
You know what I look at here when I look at all these events they have is a lot of little micro events. A lot of micro events. I mean, this list here is just like, I think it starts March 1st. And, all of these take place in March. There's a lot of events in March. And what these are going on location to where people who work are, and making it,
right.
You know, hey, you can take a couple hours off work today or take the day off work. This could be a work event. You come in here and learn more. I mean, they seem to be playing to their base with those events. So they seem to be pretty cognizant of where their bread is going to get buttered.
Yeah, I think they're playing to the dark matter developer, right? Mm-hmm. You're in the enterprise already. Look, maybe I'm wrong. I would love to hear like if one of our listeners like straight up runs a Microsoft / Xamarin consultancy. Like, tell me, what is that like? Is
this the perfect platform for those enterprises that want internal applications developed? And they bought $100 Android tablets, some cheap China crap that they could load their own applications on sideways style.
Okay, so I have a couple problems with that.
Okay.
One, you're an enterprise. Are you telling me you have no Java developers on staff or on contract? Two, Xamarin still requires you to know the native API of the platform you're targeting.
Sure, yeah. So that doesn't seem perfect though, because you could have an enterprise that has a Microsoft backend, but has, they're not buying Microsoft tablets because they're expensive and they just want a bunch of tablets for guys on the floor to carry around and check boxes on, or for
okay, then why am I not doing a PhoneGap or some sort of web-based solution? Like I'm trying to think. You are a client. You came to me, or a prospective client. You came to me with this RFP. Why am I selling you? Because listen, listeners of the show will know I have no real loyalty to any platforms. Right? If I thought I could make money tomorrow by opening Microsoft Shop LLC, I would do that. Right? Like I would totally retrain, be running Windows 10 and singing Cortana. But I don't know how this could ever be the right option for the customer, other than the customers building their own application internally.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so like I said, yes.
Maybe these bright women and men who run these companies look out at the future and they go, yeah, tablets in the consumer space are just simple, cheap consumption devices, but tablets in the workspace have an opportunity to revolutionize. Just think about data input. On the location for companies. That so much stuff that's done on paper and clipboards right now that could be done in real time and put into the system. There's got to be a huge market for a decade of that stuff.
I cannot tell you how many inventory and sales systems I've done for tablets.
Yeah,
but again, those are all HTML5, PhoneGap, right? They're not.
That just makes. I know that makes the most sense.
That
And
just makes the most
If you're gonna
sense.
build, why wouldn't you do that? I know. But I'm just thinking maybe it's you got developers that know how to do something in house, and you want to get them to do your new thing.
Right. That seems like the only case where that makes sense because
But that's a huge market. That's the dark matter. That's the dark matter. They are making a product for the dark matter masses. This could be the next generation of dark matter developer projects. Like this could be the next 10 years of.
No, it could be, right? I mean, I kind of wish this was something for me because their website's really pretty.
That's nice. Yeah.
But no, all kidding aside, like I just don't know how this could possibly be useful to people building products. And let me rephrase this.
Yeah, I know.
think
Azure
that's-
says I'm speculating a lot. I know, but I'm trying to get something that seems really solid to me. And
all right, so let's just say it as a question, right? Why are you selecting Microsoft and Xamarin, which really is now just Microsoft,
yes,
right?
yes.
Instead of either it, and I understand why you're not picking the native platforms because very few people are picking the native platforms anymore.
Well, I think you're looking at this too much from starting fresh. I think if you're looking at this from we've been doing this way for 5 years. Okay.
Hear me out. And do you really think they have these libraries well separated from the rest of their code? Seriously, because the whole thing with Xamarin is that you're going to take a PCL or you're going to have just like a shared code library, and that's going to be your business logic, and then you're going to have your your view layer and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
That requires a level of discipline that I just don't think exists.
I have to agree. At least, yeah. I mean, it's
So no matter what
maybe
you're
if you're
doing,
NASA. I don't know.
yes, but I can guarantee you, no one is launching a robot to Mars with freaking Xamarin. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I'm trying to put myself in the conference room, right? I have my little, or now my big iPad Pro, ding ding, running Microsoft PowerPoint, doing a little dog and pony show. And what possible motivation do one, I have to try to sell the customer Xamarin? Two, does the customer have to buy Xamarin, where they would have to pay more, pay a licensing fee on top of that?
You'd have to honestly. It almost. I don't know. I don't want to overhit this point, but it almost seems like if you don't choose HTML5 for your next generation of business applications, that's almost like malpractice at the CTO level, because what you're doing then is you're just continuing lock-in. And there's no technology that Microsoft offers on the back end that you couldn't expose via an HTML5 application.
That's what I'm saying. If everything's exposed via a REST JSON API, why would you do this? Right? Like, I would not understand.
So you think this is less of a bet about Android and more of a hedge against HTML5 application development? Do you think they could actually be foreseeing that, or do you think that's just...
So let me tell you how the sales calls I've had with Xamarin have gone. And they're all wonderful people. They're very nice. But they, I kept saying, well, and this was always my sticking point, because they, we were considering becoming like a Xamarin certified shop and all that kind of stuff. My problem is, software consulting, especially for mobile, is extremely competitive right now, right? I mean, it is rough out there, mainly because there's a lot of people who don't actually do the work, sell it, and then try to subcontract it to you, which is awesome and terrible. And price is almost always the deciding factor. So right off the bat, the fact that there's a minimum $2,000 license fee for Xamarin, and don't talk to me about that indie license because it's garbage, is one, I'm automatically $2,000 more than my nearest competitor, right? Oh, and since Forms isn't super shippable, I have to, write the views independently. Why, if I'm already trying to sell them on native, which, by the way, the Xamarin salespeople, they do not consider Xamarin a hybrid solution. They consider it, over and over again, the salesperson was on the phone with me. This is not hybrid. This is not a hybrid solution. You have to consider this a native solution. It is native with a little bit of cost savings. That was her position. So what the hell, right?
So the more we talk about this, so Azure in the chat room says Microsoft is going to the enterprise with Xamarin, and IBM is doing the same with Swift. We have an OS2 battle on our hands again.
I kind of hope Microsoft wins, but that's
So Apple and IBM are doing it via the partnership route, and I think IBM's hoping to bet on Apple's hardware, getting people to BYOD, and Microsoft is betting on their established dark matter developers who want to just continue down their comfortable knowledge path, and something that companies are going to look at and go, man, we've invested all of this money into this particular platform. Let's just continue to get dividends from that investment and go this route. So I think Microsoft is going it on their own with this now Xamarin is playing a role in there. I think it also has a lot to do about Azure, though. I think like all things Microsoft, when you actually look at them, you can find 2 or 3 really strong motivations for their decision, and then it comes like that. Obviously, so the enterprise play here seems to be an obvious reason they're doing this, but also I think you can't discount the fact that they're saying if you want to create Android applications and iOS applications and really want something that's easy for you to develop, something that ties in with the Microsoft ecosystem you might already be familiar with, whoever you are out there, we have this now, and I think that speaks to the sequel release too. So I think I think we've identified at least 2 really strong reasons why Microsoft has made that purchase. The third could be just a defensive purchase even. I mean, there could be all kinds of reasons. Usually, when you really break down Microsoft, there's 3 strong reasons. It's like 3 people decided on 3 things, and then they act.
Can you imagine if JetBrains bought Xamarin?
I was thinking Google.
Oh, if Google bought Xamarin, Microsoft would have, Satya Nadella would have committed harikari right there.
Wouldn't that have been a show? That would have been great.
That would have been terrible.
That'd have been fun. Yeah. I guess that probably wasn't likely.
I just want to say 2 things in the chat. I definitely know that government contracts are totally different, but I would still argue that how clean is that legacy code? Is it really already separated out into a library that you can just drop in? I doubt it.
Yeah, so many times when you're at that point, like maybe some of the original authors aren't even there anymore at the company. They've moved on. So that is a great point.
To Russia, Hong Kong.
Technical debt is real.
And to Azer, no, React Native is not. React Native is just bad. You shouldn't be doing React at all. Stop doing React.
Computer, what happened?
Seriously, don't do React. React sucks.
Computer, this isn't what I wanted at all.
React, I'm telling you right now, React is a fad and it is going to go away because it doesn't make sense. Okay, it's trying to solve a problem. It is coupling your views and your data together in a way that's just wrong.
What'd be satisfying is to see like in a few months, like it come out that there was a competitive bid against Xamarin. What do you think took so long, Mike?
That's a real question, right? Why the hell didn't this happen 6 months ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like a year ago we were talking about Miguel flying out there and the team flying out there taking pictures, tweeting about it.
I have to think the price wasn't right. I mean, to me, that seems like the only...
They've actually been kind of coy on the total money spent.
It had to be a lot, right?
I don't know if let me check the FTC thing here, because it should be in here, I would think.
Is Xamarin big enough that they have to... because Microsoft's big.
I'm looking at the FTC approval right now, and I don't see it actually on here. It just has acquired entity listed, and it just says status granted, but it doesn't say what the price was. I don't know if anyone in the chat room's heard it, but I don't know if they've actually announced it. That's interesting. I wonder what that's about. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you don't have a solid. Not sure. We don't really know. 300 million. I heard they were valued around 300 million. Value stuff.
I have a feeling although how revenue positive was Xamarin? See, there's a lot of mystery on the Xamarin side of it. Were they really making money and were they profitable? Because I always got the impression that they were not profitable.
If I was a betting man, I would bet that this deal has been in the works since the rumor started. That'd be my bet.
Well, just how prepared was Microsoft, right, with all these events? And certainly people knew this was happening before it happened.
Yeah, so OS Writer in the chat room says, and I believe OS Writer says the FTC doesn't usually post it, so we'll have to wait.
Yeah,
somebody will have to disclose it.
I hope they got that in cash.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Dominic, so the Coder Radio once again calls it. Hey, you know what? You got to give it to us. We did Toad's call it. Some other people did too, but I think we were one of the early ones to call it.
I think, this and Docker, but let me ask you one question before we close out.
Yeah.
If a genie came out of a bottle right now,
okay.
Is it Chris Fisher?
Yeah.
Here is $100,000. Go open a mobile development shop. But right now, on the spot, you must tell me, are you a native development shop, a Xamarin development shop, or a HTML5 development shop? Which would you open?
I got to tell you, native is like, if I'm risking it all, native is what feels good. However, depending on the application, I seriously would consider HTML5. I really would because all the reasons. I don't need to go into it. But so it would be so high on the consideration. That is high on the list. Depends on the app, but I lean native initially because if I'm going to do it, I want to go all in and I want to create something people really like that gets good reviews and maybe gets shared around and written about.
Okay.
There you go, right? How do you feel? Ask yourself that question.
I would say HTML5, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
Well, maybe I'll change my tune.
Yeah, but you came at it from I'm building a product. I came at it from I need to go schlep around town and try to sell this service to people. So we came at it from very different perspectives.
Yeah. If you have a take out there and you want to come at it, go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact and send it in there. Just choose Coda Radio from the drop-down. Or like our submitter this week, codaradio.reddit.com, talking about cute. You can also go there to submit topics to the show and join us live over at jblive.tv. We do the show on Monday, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern at jblive.tv. But go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to find out about maybe upsets or changes. Mr. Dominic, anywhere you want to send folks this week?
Just go ahead to dominicm.com for my continued Xamarin coverage.
That's smart. Go check him out. You can also find him on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter and all of that jazz. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of Coda Radio. We'll see you right back here next week.